I learned quite early in my career, nothing from the yesterday's experience can grant my success today.
I'm extremely honored to have Angela Cretu as a guest.
Everyone has to follow their own dreams, and I think this is the most sustainable formula.
Angela served as Chief Executive Officer at AVON.
Everyone can learn any job, but what makes the difference, though, it's that sense of vibrant curiosity.
And your career seems to be driven by this idea of change.
One should ask himself every morning, and that the question is, why would I be a choice today?
I know that you're very passionate about this idea of purpose-led companies.
From 100 years, companies will still their values hanging on the wall. If those are not coinciding with people joining and in the way they act, then the values on the wall worth not more than the frame they are put in.
Hi everyone, welcome to Unmatched. Today I'm extremely honored to have Angela Cretu as a guest on the podcast. Until just a couple of months ago, Angela served as Chief Executive Officer at AVON and is currently continuing to serve as Senior Advisor in the Advisory Committee for AVON Beauty. She's also a women's empowerment advocate and an angel investor in female founders. And above all these things, and on top of all these amazing things that she's done, I'm also extremely proud to say that we share not only our home country, Romania, but also our home city, Constanța. Angela, welcome to Unmatched.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Joanna. You cannot imagine. I mean, the world is small. We are all connected. And especially when it comes to purpose, you do find so many people who share the same values. And if we add on top that we had the same, almost, same upbringing in our native town, yes, by the Black Sea, that brings even more joy to our conversation.
That's exactly right. And I'm beyond excited to have you today. I've been a big fan for a long, long time. So I'm really happy to have you on the podcast tonight. There's so much that I want to learn from you today. But first, what is the story that brought you to where you are today?
I don't know even where to begin this story. I mean, it's such a fascinating journey. I had the chance, to start exactly from this city at the Black Sea coast. I've seen this announcement in a newspaper, which was so unusual for a job posting. I was working at that time in some sales marketing role in a tobacco company, not really a purpose-driven company, but I saw this job posting, which said that this is not just a company, it's not just a beauty company, it's a company that really created a mission out of empowering women around the world. So I was triggered by this positioning, and I really wanted to see what it was all about. And from that moment, 25 years ago, my love story began. It started in Constanța, then I moved to lead the region in Romania, then I went out of Romania to open a new market for AVON at that time. It was Serbia and Montenegro. Then that was a success. So in a few years, I moved back to Romania. Then we led together a completely new business model that was digitized end-to-end, which somehow, pitched for the attention of the entire AVON world in more than, AVON at a global scale. They wanted to understand what is the potential of our business model to really progress and evolve. And then I got the challenge to lead a bigger region, like 10 countries in Southeast Europe, and do the same business model evolution. Then the CEO took me with her to New York to lead globally the strategy and the business model innovation as the VP at the global scale. And after working with more than 100 countries around the world in changing their business model, I went back to operations, like leading Russia and Eastern Europe as a general manager and a VP of the region. Then I led Middle East, Africa, from Turkey for a number of years, then Central Europe, and then the last 4 years as a CEO of AVON. So 25 years of working with women around the world, of the turning around and evolving the business model of many countries, of understanding in-depth cultural nuances from east to west, from south to north, and really humbly learning about diversity, the divine gift that diversity is. And now completing the chapter. Actually, today is my very first day.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, it's such a milestone.
I finished the handover to my team and my wonderful successor that I selected with the vision that one day he's going to take over these pieces and really lead it forward. And really looking forward to continue exploring other ways I can add value.
How does it feel? I mean, it's incredible that today is the last day on the job, and you're starting new chapter ahead of you after 25 years in such an amazing company. How does it feel to turn the page?
I feel, I mean, I wouldn't have hoped, to be honest, or maybe I did hope. Now, I would be honest, I did hope I would be having such a gratifying and rewarding end of a chapter. I mean, next week I'm invited. We are going to have our global conference, annual conference, and we'll have top 100 executives from around the world. And as I once again reviewed the list of all the executives participating there, a large majority I either grew up with, I hired, I contributed to their development. We went through challenges together. I have so many fond memories with them. So it's such a deep sense of pride and achievement to have had the chance, the privilege to be part of not just a company for a quarter of a century, yes, but of an amazing movement, really amazing movement. I learned so much.
And I have to say, I feel especially proud of you as a fellow Romanian, because I feel you have also been such an agent of change throughout your career. And I know you have been awarded multiple awards: CEO of the Year, Leader of Change, Champion of Change. And your career seems to be driven by this idea of change. And I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about why was that such an important thing throughout your career to follow.
Look, I learned quite early in my career, and maybe because of the diversity of the experiences, I would never be able, I mean, initially, as I moved my roles from a country to another, I had somehow the impression that my previous experience is going to be enough to guide me forward. But as I interacted with different markets, different business contexts, different cultures, different people, different situations, I understood that I can merely shape some instincts, but nothing from the yesterday's experience can grant my success today. And one of my mentors told me that it's one very painful yet very healthy question one should ask himself, oneself every morning, and that the question is, why would I be a choice today? Why my product would be a choice today? Not why my product was loved yesterday. What makes it loved today and what makes it loved tomorrow? Why, as a leader, I would be a choice today? And I'm not talking about the bosses who selected me for the role. I'm talking for my own team. If my team could vote, would they choose me as a value-added leader for their lives, not just their career? And this is at times a very painful question. It's because one should, if you really are honest and you understand how change is needed. So change becomes more than a habit. It becomes a way of being, because this kind of question, either it's a professional one or a personal one, keeps you in a permanent repositioning with a new context, learning and repositioning oneself so you are still a choice and still adding value at the end, still adding value to your family, as a mom, as a partner, as a leader, as a product provider, a service experience creator, as a whatever role we play in the society. So change becomes a way of being. And now change can also be destructive, right? So it's extremely important to see to really form that energy behind the change to be a force for good.
And I wonder, it makes me think, because I think we share this curiosity as well. I don't know if it's because of Constanza or because of Romania, but it seems to be a thing out there at the Black Sea. You know, people are very curious and like willing to outdo themselves and do better. Uh, where do you think that curiosity actually stems from in your case?
Well, this is beautiful question, by the way. Beautiful question. I mean, people would ask me differently at times. They would say, okay, how do you select your key partners at the end? It's not just hiring people. What are the criteria to hire? That's a classic conventional question. At the end, what we try to engage with, not just hire, is contractually hire, is people with whom we want to travel. Yes, through a business chapter, a strategic um, um, chapter. I mean, we really want partners that we could learn with, explore with, and so on. So they say, what makes you choose one versus another? And I always say, my first criteria is to get a sense of their curiosity, because it's the only one area where I cannot influence much, unfortunately. Everyone can learn any job, and I'm sorry to disappoint some people who imagine that a CEO job, executive job, and so on is kind of NASA-like scientist job. I mean, everything can be learned, and there isn't. Again, I hope I don't offend anyone, but there is no need of more than an average IQ. But what makes the difference, though, it's that sense of vibrant curiosity, the humility to learn and unlearn at all times, the emotional generosity to keep a flow of energy to engage other people around yourselves. That makes the difference. And curiosity. Without curiosity, it's impossible to acknowledge the diversity around ourselves. It's impossible to learn in real time the dynamic of our entire environment and then explore new ways for us to add value. So to me, I'm always in part of my interviews, and usually people recognize me for my very unusual ways of interview people. I try to understand how people feed their curiosity. I want to know which apps they use. I want to know, what was the latest crazy news they read and where from. I want to know what triggers their curiosity, what ignites their curiosity. And pending this, the output of this conversation, I understand if we can work together. Yeah. So to me, curiosity is the key energy enabler.
Yeah, totally agree and very aligned on that. I always say that you can teach any skill, but you cannot teach attitude. And having the right attitude and the positive attitude to, move mountains sometimes when you have to is something that you kind of bring with yourself throughout the journey. You mentioned a few times the word humility. And I know from following you for some time that humility is a huge word and it's a huge core value of Avon. Tell us a little bit about why this is so important and how does that fit in a world that tell us that we don't need to be that humble. That it's okay to kind of like own who we are and just be ourselves. And humility is not necessarily a value that younger generations appreciate that much. And it's all about like me. Why is humility such an important core value for you and for Avon?
Humility doesn't equal lack of self-confidence. It doesn't take away your sense of self-trust. Humility means you are how can I say? You are aware that everything is an ecosystem and nothing goes around yourself, which paradoxically, it's becoming a huge source of energy and empowerment. Because in a conversation, in a relationship, in a partnership, the more you engage people around yourself that this is not about you, this is about a common value you wish to achieve together. And the more you look in your actions to co-create rather than short-term just me, centered actions, the more one can gain traction. So humility has a commercial value, if you think in a practical terms from business perspective. But above all, the value of humility comes from the fact that nobody knows everything, that nobody is necessarily better than the other. Everyone comes with his unique set of skills and hopes and aspirations. And at the end, it's that kind of acknowledgement. Staying humble means at all times acknowledging that we are so small, and gives you and I know to some who say, oh, when you acknowledge you're small, you cannot be a CEO. Oh, quite the opposite of that. You understand, it's extremely powerful sentiment, because not making it about yourself gives you the power of a community and not just the power of an individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when people start to follow you, not just obey you, right? There's a big difference.
And I don't even need I even hate the word following, by the way. I hope they don't follow me. I hope they follow the mission we all engaged in. Because I never make it about follow me. I mean, I'm nobody. I'm literally, if anything, I'm a connector. Yes, I'm part of a network of, I would say, a community of professionals at any moment in time, if we speak about business, or a community of friends, if I talk of my own friends, yes, or who at a moment in time, for a certain period of time, share some values, have in common certain mission. And we contribute with energy, knowledge, skills, time, to that mission together. So we don't follow each other. We enable each other. Of course, we might have different sense of responsibility where I serve them as a leader. Yes. And they support one another, but at the end, everyone has to follow their own dreams. And I think this is the most sustainable formula.
I couldn't agree more. And you're literally the only person that I've ever heard verbalizing this, especially at the CEO level. So let's just pause here for a second, because I think this is such an important message that I would love, for our audience to take away. They need to follow their dreams first, right? So there's this idea of company values and then personal values. And I feel not a lot of people, or we don't spend enough time thinking about our own values in relationship to the values of the company, the brand, the person we work for and with, or the group of people that we work with. I know that you're very passionate about this idea of purpose-led companies and the fact that values drive real business value, and I totally agree. Could you expand a little bit more on this, and kind of, based on your experience, tell us how you've seen that actually come to life in your experience so far?
There are many dimensions of it, but I will cover a few from different perspectives of different stakeholders of the overall purpose and the search for purpose in life. So from a company perspective, the companies nowadays live in the era where the beneficiaries of the products and services they produce or sell or they add, yes, are asking very different things than just 10 years ago. It's not just about having the best quality product for the best price at the convenient place to be purchased from, or the right promotion. It's now about different type of experience, emotional gratification. It's about social responsibility, as the customers, the consumers want to create out of their purchase decision also a pledge or a gesture or a active contribution to their community in a way or another, planet or community. So they want to feel proud of their choices, and that go beyond the individual. They go to collective. There is kind of a new raised consciousness. So companies will have to redefine anyway the way they bring value. But to do that, they need their own associates, yes, their own employees, to not act just like as a task achievers or executors of certain jobs. Yes, they need now to engage with a very different, with a create more of a in a creator mode. Adding innovation as a habit at all levels in the organization, in a very different setup than just the norms of a hierarchical company in the past. It's more like a partnership. So companies understand that they need to engage their associates differently. Of course, from 100 years, companies, we steal their values hanging on the wall. And people say, these are the company's values. And by the way, I match somehow with my values, with 3 of them, 2 of them, 1 of them, with all of them, whatever. But the reality is, company is not some kind of abstract entity. Company is us. As long as I'm working in that company, or I'm the alumni of that company, it's part of me. I am the company. So those values somehow have to project the community, that community, I call the company a community now, intent, shared values. If those are not coinciding with people joining and in the way they act, then the values on the wall worth not more than the frame they are put in. Zero. I mean, you can have a nice PR or nice marketing around it, but mean nothing. So from a company perspective, it's extremely important to create that sense of shared values, that we are part of something bigger than sharing our physical presence, knowledge, and experience. From individual perspective right now, as associates, people do not see any longer the career as not as a survival, yes, enabler. Yes, you have to go to work, otherwise there is no food on the table. It's not any longer just to validate my status. People gained the new levels of confidence. They find other ways as well, just through work, to be respected in their own communities or feel good about themselves. So right now, they want a sense of meaning. So I'm not going to work to spend there 8, 9, 10 hours a day or more, without the sense of why am I doing all this? Why? And there is a craving for I want to be part of it with more than just me, inputting data in the system. I want to see my value. I want to see my contribution to the more than just a task. So you see, the purpose, it becomes a huge enabler. It becomes an energy driver. And for the community, now the third perspective, just to triangulate, yes, for you, the purpose need, it's the era where we understand that the rights of the human rights, the planet rights, cannot be secured and any longer just by the government. Business players currently globally, from the top ones, which, by the way, in their wealth combined, they value more than all governments in the world, to the smaller players who have a prominent influence in their own micro communities, they are major players in our society. So their narrow view just on shareholder cannot be sustainable, because their own customers are going to ask them to evolve from that level. So that's why I'm saying, from these 3 different perspectives, company, associates, people, customers, but as well communities, the need of a well-articulated purpose, and then tangible action behind it, not just greenwashing, not human rights washing, yes, but really tangible, something that every community can feel, will define the new playground in the business context.
I just love that explanation because it was so clear, and you touched on all the aspects, right? The 3 elements that kind of are connected with this idea of purpose. And I want to maybe spend a few minutes talking about community, because if there's one thing that defines AVON, I would say, is the sense of community. And I will tell you that in my teen years, I was an associate at AVON in Constanza. And my cousin, I actually started because of my cousin, Diana. Big shout out and hello to her. Um, she started it and she was really good at it. And I just wanted the products. I just wanted free products. So I did it for a little bit of time for fun. And I think the one thing that I remember about that time is this sense of community that those women had among themselves, and how they met together, spent time together, exchanged products, exchanged ideas, helped each other. So I would love for you to maybe go back a little bit to this idea of community and how that has shaped your career, but also the time that you've spent at Avon as a company.
No, I'll start with a small story, and I think it's a relevant story. 25 years ago, after I've had my training, yes, to take on my first role as a zone manager, just like Diana now, yes. Um, After the training, Avon was still pretty new in Romania, and I was going back to Constanța, and that area was not open just yet. So I just got few catalogs, few brochures, and to go back home and to start creating my first customers. Yes, my first web relationships with new customers. So I was quite nervous, as you can imagine, and I was not. I mean, I always enjoyed having authentic relationships, but not having been ultra sociable. So I wouldn't at that moment in time feel very comfortable to go and meet people, new people, and have a cold sale. Yes. Yet in the train, as I went back from Bucharest to Constanța, I opened the brochures once again to go through all the categories and remember everything I've learned through my trainings about each and every of the category. And then the magic happened. The moment I opened that catalog, in just a few minutes, the lady across me started to talk to me. Then the other lady, so we were 6 people in that compartment. So by the moment in 2 hours that of train ride I had to Constanța, I already made new friends. And by the way, those 2 ladies that engaged in conversation with me became my first representatives afterwards. So, and they are still today.
I love that.
And this is what I think it's extremely important to understand. And beauty talk. It's not only about the peptides, the proteinol, the active retinoids, the color, the pigments in the product. It's always a conversation about life, love, hope, family, kids. So when we talk about beauty, we talk about self-confidence. We talk about how we want to feel. We talk about our life. And this is what creates community. And I've been blessed to be part of a business model that has not just traded, understood the responsibility around understanding what beauty truly means. That beauty doesn't mean just color. It doesn't. It really means women confidence and women well-being and women empowerment and financial independence and equality in rights and I created a business model that it's worth sharing the earning with millions of women around the world instead with just few shareholders. Yes, and second, created this $1.1 billion, yes, of charitable contribution for causes that are related to women well-being, breast cancer, and domestic violence. That's what it is.
Yeah. And I think it's a very illustrative story about how that happens very organically, right? And so that leads me to the next question. 135 years of history that Avon has, and you talk a lot about humility and this idea and this question of why does the consumer chooses me today, not really sleeping on past successes, right, but more looking into the future and reinventing yourself all the time, based on that curiosity that we spoke about before. So from your perspective, what is it that consumers see in Avon, or in general need to see in brands today in order to choose those brands over and over? Because let's face it, consumers change, consumers evolve, consumers grow up. There's always the need of creating the pipeline of new consumers coming in. So, from a perspective of a 135 years a company, and based on your experience, what is that new way of acting in front of the consumers that makes sense to them today?
For a company, I mean, on one hand side, it's beautiful to have such a legacy. It gives you a sense of pride, the history, the achievements, the scale. Yes, you have so much to learn from around the world. You go in all these countries, meet women from Philippines to South Africa to Morocco to Latin America. Yes, to you understand, what unites them all, and you understand the extraordinary impact this company has had, this community has had, even before women had the right to vote. Yet, back to what you've just said, this cannot buy relevancy. And if we are really serious about the question of why would she choose me or my product or my service and experience today, you get to the brutal fact that yes, Avon, and we've been through these ups and downs quite a lot in our own exploration of the evolution of the business model and our strategic inquiries, will have that nostalgic feeling. People smile. They have the warmth when they talk about Avon. Yet I also have a warmth and I smile when I talk about my grandma. Would I take my grandma to spend in the same with me in the same activities as I would have as a modern woman nowadays? Maybe not. So it's to keep a brand after more than 100 years still a relevant choice requires constant repositioning and kill paradigms. Really, I mean, kill the way, shift really the paradigms, kill this kind of a I would call them like a myth. So if Avon was all about women staying at home in the 80s, we had to understand that actually starting with 70s, that women were no longer home. They start working. So we had to move where they work. It worked fine. Then they moved into a digital space. We said, fine, we moved there. So access continues to evolve right now. And for the last 4 years, we killed this taboo that Avon is just a direct selling company. So we moved the company from a traditional direct selling to a vibrant, modern omni-channel, which means we opened up alliances with retail franchise, supporting women entrepreneurs, creating as well physical presence for people to continue conversations about the product, this time in an environment that it's more accessible to them than just through a representative, and still protect the high touch, relationship counseling as per their choice. So we moved back the choice to the customer. We said we cannot be arrogant, speaking about the humility again, to say, hey, if my customer loved me till yesterday, they will continue buying just from this channel. That cannot happen in nowadays world. We need to be wherever they are. And customers, women nowadays, are in an omni-channel environment. 70% of transactions happen in retail, and we have to create a presence there. And I'm proud of my team. It took a while for us, mentality-wise, to break this past paradigm and really change towards opening up our access, towards also a curating portfolio, creating an innovation focus. I mean, lots of things have happened in the last years to regain Avon's relevance. And I'm proud to see now Avon thriving back in a very different setup for its business model and brand positioning.
And I do believe that it takes a lot of humility and, I don't know, creative thinking to break those paradigms that you mentioned before, right? Because it's so easy to fall into the trap of, well, it worked for us for so long, why not keep doing what we're doing? Because it's safer this way, right? And nobody wants to take risks, especially when there's shareholder value involved. You don't want to take too many risks. They're all like calculated risk, and you're trying to dip your toes slowly in different areas. But sometimes you do need to be brave, especially in the current, economic situation, consumer landscape where everything shifts so quickly. There's social media, there's a lot of brands out there. There's, especially in your category in beauty, but I would say everywhere, there's so much choice at all the different price points that I can only imagine how challenging this process has been.
Competitive market, and customers are not looking just to differentiate in terms of the science behind the product and the benefits, but also as well the purchase experience and the follow-up experience. And customers and many of the companies thought that digital itself will solve all the barriers in terms of access to information and to product and services. In reality, right now we see this as well craving for a personal experience that no CRM, no power of AI can get that close to know. Oh, by the way, I know Diana got married and just got married, and now she goes through a new life cycle, and things that I would know only if we had a relationship, and we want to preserve that kind of service as Avon. Yes. And I don't want to replace it. We just opened it up to leave at the customer level, the consumer level, the choice, what kind of experience they want, and then come with the access and the product.
I think that's really important because I agree. I always like to say the future of marketing is human, because as much as we are progressing in this very interconnected and digital world, and AI, VR, all these, connected experiences, um, somehow we see the younger generation craving for more personal experiences as well. Like, we see Gen Z wanting in real life experiences more and more. We see more in real life retail shops as well, coming back to kind of center stage here. So I think it's so interesting that you have identified this need and are continuing to bet on it, because I think it's
There
quite
is,
important.
and if noticed in some of our focus groups, there are already conversations, and I anticipate soon will become a trend of people starting to distrust the AI powered, I would say, attempts to personalize an experience. Why? Because it becomes creepy. And I'm sure you experience that as well, Juana. As an example, one day you will talk with one of your friends over a coffee about Dubai, not over the phone, over a coffee in person, yes? And by that evening or next day, you'll be seeing next day that your Facebook flooded with personalized, yes, um, even incentivized, offers about traveling to Dubai, buying things, apartment to Dubai, whatever to Dubai, to a level that you start distrusting even the company offered that to you, because you haven't permitted, you haven't allowed them to know that information about you. Yes, so you told your friend, and I think that human relations, like you call it, that human touch, will be more and more a choice going forward than the mainstream, algorithms of personalization. But we are going to learn together.
I have a funny story to tell you. I have at our coffee shop where I go every day, there is this guy who's serving, and he knows us all, and he knows already what we want. And I've developed a certain rebellion against the fact that he knows exactly what I want every day. So I've started to like give him different requests every day to like set him on a tangent. And now he's confused, and I kind of felt the parallel with what you just said. I think there is an element of rebellion that people are going to start to have with this idea that an algorithm knows me better than I know me. And people evolve. And what I like today, I might not like tomorrow. And I don't want you to assume that what I want today is what I want in, 3 months from now. I can change my mind.
I would want algorithms to assume that just because I'm 50-year-old this year, I need to know is about the menopausal women. So while this is important, I think what's that kind of segmentation is still very far from the experiences people need. Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's why uh, human to human relationships are extremely precious and need to be nurtured no matter what.
And they are the real deal. When you talk about experience, that is the OG experience. So there's no match to that. I want to go back to the idea of female entrepreneurship. You mentioned that briefly before, and I'm curious, as you know, a woman that has been in such a high position as you have, in one of the biggest companies, one of the best known brands worldwide, throughout your 25-year career, how how did you feel the different layers of pressure, of family life, being a good partner, potentially being a good mother, being a good leader, being a good CEO, delivering shareholder value, being accessible to people all at the same time? How did you experience that, and how did you overcome those challenges that come with it?
By the way, men feel similar pressure. They just don't talk a lot about it because society also coded it down from very young, early age not to talk about. We kind of women a little bit overshare. And it's true, we have the motherhood that adds a little bit more complex type of it, but this doesn't take away the pressure men feel as providers for their family as well. I think discussion is with such high pressure roles that we play in our professional lives, how we can make sure, we balance the value we add to our lives and to the others in a way that still makes sense. Yes. And it's true, it took me lots of years where I would hero through it. I would try to lean in and I would say, I'm strong, I can do it all, I can be best at everything, at any time, every time. And it's not only exhausting, it's delusional. And one can lose himself very, very easily through it. And I went through the hard learning, really hard learning, with few pivotal moments, really, that one cannot really lean in. I think that's I wouldn't want to label it, but at least from my perspective, experience, and many women I've met and worked with globally, it's not like in American movies where you have James Bond, he goes through the battle, then he comes back at the door with the rose and the suit still intact, and then, or in American movies, you see the women, they start up the morning all cheerful, they go to the gym, they come back home, the shower, they get breakfast, go to work, they come back again, gym, they go to a cocktail, then come back, they're perfect lovers. They also sleep well and they're again fresh. Really not. That's not real. That's not real. And I want to keep it. So it's the life, it's a sum of trade-offs. The wise one, though, is the one that balances the trade-offs at all times as much as we can. So we keep the equilibrium in between sources of energy and learning and drainers, because you also have to give energy. Yes, it's always a trade. And then I chose purposely the stakeholders in my life. Who are my key stakeholders? My son, my friends, my husband, yes, my sister, my team, yes, wherever I worked with them, and then myself. I'm a key stakeholder. My learning, my well-being, yes. So I list those stakeholders, and I suggest that everyone does that. And when you list these stakeholders, you also gives you a sense of the clarity of priorities, because you understand just by listing stakeholders where you would get your energy from. Yes, in order as well to give energies to others. And then try through the scheduling the time, because time means energy, by the way. Time equals energy allocation. To try to Maybe you would not be able to do it at the level of the day as a perfect balance between all stakeholders. But I could succeed at the level of the week. If not at the level of the week, I try at the level of the month to create those time allocations where I'm 100% in with no distraction whatsoever from anything else with my key stakeholder in that moment, like we are today now, yes, in this conversation. And that requires self-discipline. Yes, because I'm there. But it's so rewarding. And I would remember many before I started to learn and have that as a habit of power time, of rigorous scheduling, of understanding myself and who are my life stakeholders. It it really took me from going to bed feeling I've done nothing and drained of energy, really drained, depleted energy completely, to feeling I that's my game. Yes, I feeling that I'm intensely engaged with my life. And that is the very definition of happiness, by the way. But that is it.
Because that's the whole point, right? I mean, there's no point in going through life not being intentional about what we do. And I think this is a little bit the sort of the rat race that we're in, that we don't necessarily realize the moment when you need to stop and, as you said, schedule your time, organize what you have to do, focus, leave distractions on the side, and be there, be present. Because again, coming to the human to human relationship, that's what it is all about at the end of the day.
And right, I mean, everything is a choice until it isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when you kind of realize what it is really all about, right? You're closing a chapter today, and I am very curious about the decision that you've made on your successor. As a marketer, I'm very happy to see that a previous CMO is now a CEO. And I would love for you to talk to me about that decision and why you made it. But also, it's quite interesting that in a company that is kind of led by women communities, we now have a man CEO, which is also an interesting choice. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about how that came about.
I'm exploring the concept of when I'm going to end my AVON chapter so I can explore as well new learning for quite a number of years. Yes, but every time I had a new challenge that kept me hooked in, engaged, and then as I tell you, it's a love story altogether. Very difficult to leave. Very difficult to leave. Yet 2 years ago, it became clear that what I committed to my board and to my team, it's already coming to an end. I am approaching as well, symbolically or not, the 25 years at Avon, 50 years of life. So I said, okay, if it's now or never, I still have just one life. I still have the energy, the appetite to explore. And it's that kind of growth mentality, mindset, where I say it's good for the company, change, because they cannot become in the comfort zone or complacent about the same leadership, the same style. So change is positive. And as well to have somebody who opens up, not only I opened up the new channels, but now you need a retail and digital savvy expert to continue not just exploring, but continue use these new channels as multipliers for the brand. So I had that vision, more professional and leadership-wise and personal-wise, that time is coming. So I went to my board of directors a year and a half ago, and I said, my time is coming. Let's work together. Let's identify a successor. I already have recruited somebody, and I was just recruiting Christoph as a CMO. And I think he has tremendous potential. But I think what's extremely important is that we have a healthy, diverse pipeline for us to look at to ensure that the next chapter has not only the right knowledge, the right experience, from their new CEO, but as well the understanding of the business model and the purpose as a driver. So the board at that moment in time, as you can imagine, they were quite surprised. And what's interesting is I had few of the reaction from some of the people at that time. So one told me, "Are you crazy? I mean, why would you go? You are at your prime. Avon is doing well. It's in an amazing direction. You just opened up right now, such an opportunity. Board loves you. So what is going on?" And to my regret as well, I had one woman who asked me, "Are you menopausal?"
Oh no. Oh
Is it
no.
biochemical? I said, "If it is, I don't say it's not, but if it is, I call it wisdom." Because exactly because I feel I'm at my prime. Exactly because I feel I've never loved this company more. I know it's time for a change for me and for them. And isn't it wonderful? Exactly at this level where we have such a pride to share together. Isn't it wonderful now to step aside? So that was about my decision. And then, of course, you say, why a man? We looked at a very diverse group of potential CEOs and a successor for myself. And I'm a deep believer, I'm a keen women advocate. I mean, in many of the roles, I've either a successor, I've left behind, or roles that's created. I made sure we have the equality of chance. I am not much of a believer in equality of output. So to me, and I saw it in my career as well, what was important was that my value could be seen, and then the best value would be chosen, which could as well could be that it was not me. So from all the candidates we had, he at the end was a chosen one, and by the board, and as well the acknowledgement of the entire team as being a high quality, outstanding professional, and as well amazing human being. And I'm very excited to see how the new chapter would look like for Avon.
It's going to be interesting, especially as I said, exciting to see a marketeer, at the helm of a big company like this. So that's definitely going to be interesting to follow. So with this chapter being closed, and you're talking about your desire to keep exploring, what is coming up for you? What are you keen on exploring? What is interesting? What motivates you now in this new chapter moving forward?
We'll have to have another podcast maybe later on, because today it's only my first day when I started exploring.
You
I'm
need some time.
full of power time. It's not like because I don't multitask. I mean, like many women out there, I can multitask. But when it comes to energy allocation, I looked first to create a vacuum, which means finish properly and beautifully my chapter with Avon, and only then start exploring. Because I want a quality exploration and reflection. So I will be having responses to all these questions once I figure it out myself. What I know for sure is what makes me happy today. What are my energy sources today? And this is to create tangible value, to support women, have equality of chances once again, and then creating a more meaningful presence for them in all walks of life, in society and business alike. And then I'm keen. I find the market currently really fascinating. I mean, seeing now the markets go, the market players going out of the conventional, traditional, vertical, strategic development, rather looking now for alliances, creating out of their products and services new kind of experiences that they can lend to customers. I mean, it's so much happening with the way now the P&Ls, I mean, the resource allocation in the company is happening, the way the organizational structures evolve, the way cultures evolve. I think this is my sweet spot, is the transforming while performing, all under a sense of purpose, and the value creation focus. more than just the conventional financial KPIs, but the true tangible value from economical to society to of course obviously financial shareholder value. So I know where my energy comes from. I know I have the self-trust to know where I can add value. I know where my appetite of learning really is at its fullest. And for the rest, I keep quite agnostic. I on purpose, intently do not go with inertia to just take the next gig as a CEO in beauty, which would be maybe a natural next step. Quite the opposite. I'm really keep agnostic. I really want to see what life has for me, and what else I can explore.
I mean, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful ending to our conversation, and for sure, I'm going to take on that invitation for next time to have another chat and follow up on your amazing projects. But I don't think that I've ever smiled so openly in any conversation before, because yeah, it just inspired me to see that it is possible, right? It is possible to lead with purpose, to be open for change, to be curious at the highest level, to understand that it's about the people behind the companies, and that those people drive change and value to those companies, and that shareholder value is about people and is about being human. So I'm so grateful for this conversation, Angela, and I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for sharing all that you've shared today with us.
Deep gratitude, Juana. I enjoy your questions a lot. I mean, this is what makes, at the end, a insightful and meaningful conversation. I really hope your audience will enjoy and will take a little bit, if not information, at least the energy and the encouragement that the collective power it's always a source of inspiration and at the end, energy for us all to continue building for better.
I'm sure they will. Thank you so much, Angela. We
Yep.
speak soon.